working on their website and getting that much closer to being in business. People are still popping on. There's over 50 of us here, but I'm going to introduce Ian Price Murphy, who is here to talk all about dollars and cents. Ian and I have worked together in the past, and one of the things that I just really I love about Ian is the lessons really are clear and they make sense, and it's simple tools. And money, somehow when people are in business, it's a hang up. It's hard. Like the money part is hard. And some people, let's say, you know, you're a visual artist, you might not be so great at balancing books or keeping track of invoices and things like that. And Ian has a way of making it simple. At least it seems simple to me. And I always learn a little something too when I hear Ian teach. So what's happening tonight is Ian's going to present for about 50 minutes. There's going to be a little bit of time for questions. And also, if there are questions during her presentation, throw them in chat. And Ian, if it's okay, I'll just interrupt you and say, you know,
yeah,
Sam has a question, whatever. And then I will present on tools of the trade, basically software and all the kind of, you know, accounts that you, not all of them, but many of the accounts that you help you get business done. Just like last week, I gave Barry a little bit of leeway. And if I don't get through all of my material, it can bleed over a little bit to Thursday. And so with that, I would like to hand it over to Ian. And again, ask your questions in chat. Nicole, did you have anything you wanted to say before we get rolling?
Nope, I'm good. Just welcome Ian and thank you for participating and presenting. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Let's hope so. Let's find out. All right. So I threw some, like I said, threw some slides together and tried to get everybody's logo on there, but the topic that we're going to be talking about loosely today is sort of why is money so expensive? Because I think it's, well, two things. I always like to start with my favorite quote. I have no idea who said this, but in my opinion, it's time for radically kind people to become comfortable with power and money. And so I think that we've got a lot of people, you know, small business is the backbone of the community. That's what holds everything together, in my opinion. And so making sure that money is not the thing that takes you out is kind of my mission in life. And partly that's because I had a personal bankruptcy in my 20s because I just didn't understand money. And it wasn't like I was out spending like a nut house. You know, I was pretty frugal. It was just, again, I didn't understand that it didn't matter how hard I worked. There was no way to live on $9 an hour or less. So, you know, so that's sort of where my dedication comes from. And so I think it's just important to acknowledge up front too, that owning a successful business and having a business that is doing really well doesn't mean that you are necessarily comfortable with the money stuff or the back office stuff, or that you've got any systems. I see behind the curtain on lots of small businesses and how people who are delivering extraordinary products and experiences to their clients are like terrified and chaotic in the back. So, you know, we all started our businesses because we love what we do or we're good at what we do, not because we're good at owning businesses. And even those of us who may have had some accounting classes in college or high school, I don't think they do that. That rarely translates over to the real world. So having a good record keeping system, having a good way to track your money and manage your cash is crucial. And very few people actually have those systems in place. And then even if you do have those systems in place, knowing how to interpret that data once you've got it is another set of skills. So my hope is that we're going to talk a little bit about how to read financial reports, how to customize your system, whatever you're using. We'll talk maybe a little bit about what that system should be, so that your bookkeeping is set up to answer the questions you actually have to help you make decisions, right? Because that's what's important about it. Yeah. All right, let's move on to other slides so I don't spend all 50 minutes on one. So this is me, Ian Price Murphy. I'm the founder of a business called Moxie Bookkeeping and Coaching. It is based in Brooklyn, New York, where I lived for 30 years, although I am a California native, as is my mom. So I'm a second generation California native. I grew up in the Bay Area. And then I went back east for school and stayed. I actually did high school here in Grass Valley at the Sierra Friends Center, as did my sister. So I'm, a certified business coach. I'm a Profit First professional. I'm certified in QuickBooks and Xero, which is another bookkeeping software. I've helped over 10,000 small businesses over the last 20 years. So if you've done it, I've probably seen it. So this is my stock photo standing in for one of our clients. I just call her Shelly stock photo. But she's based on a real web design client that we have. We work mostly with creative service professionals, although we've got a few retail, manufacturing, wholesale clients as well. And she started her web design business because she loved the work, but wanted more control over the kinds of projects that she took and the kinds of people that she worked with. So hopefully that sounds a little bit familiar. And so again, she's super skilled in her industry, but she never got the education or the guidance on how to actually run her business, price her services, track things. And so as a result, she didn't really understand why bookkeeping was important. And she thought of it kind of as a hassle to be put off or delegated and then avoided, not given a second thought until the end of the year when it was tax time. And then she was hoping that her CPA, her tax person, would catch all of the mistakes that had been made, which wasn't always the case, especially when it's this time of year when tax accountants are super overwhelmed. So I just want to make sure that you know what reports you should be looking at and how to see those mistakes for yourself a little bit, or when to work with someone to help you find those before things go to the tax person. So here she is looking sad because the uncertainty of the bookkeeping has created some frustration from her, for some worry for her. 82%, I believe, is the statistic. 82% of businesses that fail because of cash flow reasons. Now, that can either mean they're not earning enough income, but it can also mean that even though they're earning a bunch, that they're not managing it well. They're either overspending, or their collection cycle is too long, or whatever it is, that they don't have the cash available when they need it. And that's what damages the business. So we want to make sure that that cash situation isn't negatively affecting your ability to reach your goals. We don't want you to miss out on any opportunities because you're not sure if you can afford them, and so you let them go by you. We also don't want you to commit to anything that it turns out later is more than you can afford, because you just don't know what you don't know. If your books have errors, you might be overpaying or underpaying your taxes, and you might get a tax bill you can't afford, or penalties and interest that you weren't expecting. And you may not be able to sustainably pay yourself a reasonable and fair wage for your work that you do in the business as the owner. So again, 82% of small businesses fail because of cash flow. So too often, businesses avoid that going out of business because of cash by borrowing from themselves. And again, that's, pop in the chat if you're like, yeah, I've paid a business tax bill from my personal, I've covered a business expense from my personal and not paid myself back. I've worked hours in the business that I haven't been paid for. I'm expecting to see almost everyone say yep to one of those. Yeah, many, many times, right? That's the reality. So I don't want you risking your personal future because of your business. Your business should be there to support your personal and help you reach your personal goals, not just your business goals. So So that's what we want to do, is we want to help your business grow sustainably while protecting your personal cash. And if you're purchasing, if it's a mixing issue, we'll get to that. So here's kind of the before and after that we're looking at. You know, maybe your reports are super unclear and you feel like when you look at them, you're looking at the matrix and you don't even know what you're seeing. Instead of having your reports answer the simple questions that you're asking, like, how much did I earn last month? How much did that, what did that compare to the month before? If you've been in business a while, what does this year look like compared to last year, right? If you are applying for any of those PPP loans or grants, that's what those grants are asking you to prove. And so you have to have a system that can help you pull that data up instantly when you need it. Good reports can also help you answer the question like, are our margins okay? Are we charging enough? Did that last project produce enough profit to cover our overhead? So some of the decisions, again,
I'm going to butt in just for a second
please.
and re-emphasize something you said about having, like with the PPP loans. I run a nonprofit, and there's these grants and different financial opportunities, and it's like it's announced, and some of them are first come, first serve, and you have to upload that stuff. And so it's not only best practices for your business, but like in these times right now, it's even more important to be able to say, yep, here's what I paid in salary last year, or here's what, yeah, so.
And that's kind of my whole general attitude and approach, right? Even as far as my filing system. I like to have things filed in a certain way because I know that if I have to go back and pull a receipt, it's because something has already gone wrong. And so the last thing I want to be doing is shuffling through piles and piles of paper and getting more and more frustrated when I'm likely already a little frustrated about something that I broke or didn't work the way it was supposed to or didn't get delivered. So I try to set things up and maintain things without obsessing about them in a way that it's easy to get the information back out. So one of the other things I'll talk about probably a couple times is this idea of as few as possible, as many as necessary, right? So we don't want something that's super overcomplicated and complex. We just want to be able to get what we need when we need it. So when we have good reports, they help us with this decision-making process. So, you know, the little guy on the left is unsure which way to go because there's no clear signage. Or, you know, if he's me in my 20s, the sign's right there, he just can't read it and so doesn't know whether to go left or to right. So reports should be acting like that sign saying go left, go right. It's, you know, 1 mile away, it's 3 miles away, whatever it is. When you go on intuition, you are kind of, you know, navigating with a blindfold on. I love to tell the story of that poor hiker in Hawaii a couple of years ago, Amanda Eller, who went on a short hike, parked her car, hiked up a little bit, sat down, meditated. And when she opened her eyes, she was completely disoriented and didn't have her cell phone with her, and tried to sort of say, well, I feel like I came from that way. And 17 days later, they rescued her. So that's what it can be like. You know, there's this sort of idea of if this is the problem, any direction away from it is away from the problem, and that feels good. But only one of those directions is actually towards a solid solution, and the rest of them are all just kind of pulling us in circles in the Hawaiian forest. So we want to make sure that you know how to read the signs in your book and that it's acting as that map or as that GPS for you. We're going to look a little bit at accounts receivable. And again, there's without a good system, you may be chasing down invoices, maybe even ones that your clients have already paid, which can be really embarrassing if that happens. Or you might, or, you know, ideally we have some sort of automated collection process. If you have, you know, retail, you're doing cash at time of service, you don't even have to worry about this. But anyone that does terms on service, it might be a good idea to have a card on file or get a deposit up front or whatever it is that makes sense for you and your industry. So more than 20% of small businesses are financed by the owner, meaning that if your clients don't pay you, not only do you not get paid, you're the one that covers the bills. And again, to me, that's terrifying because that leverages your personal financial security against your business in a way that does not feel healthy or sustainable to me. For your accounts payable, if you don't have a system, you may be missing payments, you might be paying late fees, overdraft charges, penalties, interest, etc. Many vendors offer an early payment discount. So if you have a good system and are buying in bulk, you might be able to get 2% off if you pay in the first 10 days, and knowing which vendors those are, so you're not paying everybody right away. And again, managing that cash so that you're paying people when they need to get paid, not before, not after. And then for payroll, this is both for traditional actual payroll where taxes are withheld, or what we sort of think of payroll when we give ourselves money from the business as the owner. Is the business able to pay you a regular paycheck, or are you constantly loaning the money to the business so that instead of getting paid, you're getting paid back maybe partially? What we want for you, what I want for you, is for you to be able to take regular pay from the business regardless of income fluctuations. And we've got a system to help manage the cash to do exactly that. Avoiding cash crunches, having a good cash reserve so that if something like, I don't know, a global pandemic happens, that you've got a little bit of a runway rather than falling directly into panic. Then you have a time and a cushion to figure out what the next smart move is. Because again, not every direction away from your problem is towards a solution. So we want to go from unclear reports, paralysis, chasing down invoices, paying fees, etc., not having enough for payroll, cash crunches, to having the reports that answer your question, actionable intelligence, automated payments, on time, every time, regular paycheck for you and for anyone that works for you, and cash reserve to carry you through. So here again is me, a fake stock photo, me on the left with our Shelly stock photo on the right. And when she and I started working together, she was about a year behind on her bookkeeping. And while her books weren't in terrible shape, they just weren't up to date at all, meaning that she didn't have any numbers to work from. So she was like Amanda, lost in the Hawaiian wilderness. Because her books were incomplete and she couldn't rely on that data to help her, she kept running out of cash, bouncing checks, and taking on more and more debt for the business. And so when we started working together, her minimum monthly loan payments were almost $7,000 a month. So her business, while outwardly successful, she had tons of clients coming in, lots of new inquiries. She felt like she had a tiger by the tail, and like at any moment it was going to turn around and bite her head off. So she was actually even talking about mortgaging her home or selling her home to try and cover the business debt. And thankfully she didn't. We talked her into that. We got her books up to date. We were able to shorten her invoice cycle and make sure that things were getting finished so that she could collect that last payment. We reduced her costs. We gave every dollar a job and every dollar a home, so that within about a year, she had her debt totally paid off and a cash reserve, and had actually hired some staff to help her stay up to date. So these are the reports that we look at together.
So can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
So you've created this persona, this
Shelly.
Is it Susan? What's her name?
Shelly.
Shelly, yes. So Shelly, I get that Shelly maybe doesn't have has never done this before, or doesn't, know the right processes, but is there something in Shelly that is like, well, I don't have time for this. I'm going to when I strike it big, or when there's this time out in the future that she's going to clean up the mess, or what is it about the personality that's led her to that place in the first place?
So Shelly is a real person. Her name has been changed to protect the innocence. So the real world Shelley, yes. I mean, her focus was delivering beautiful websites. And so she would, fully intend to sit down and do her bookkeeping every week, but something else would always come up. There'd be an urgent client order, or a project would need to be priced, or there was an issue with the coding that needed to be fixed, or somebody needed an update. And so she was so busy working in the business and not carving out any time to work on the business, that things were just piling up. And again, Shelley is very much like many of our clients in that personality. I mean, this is partly because this is where we really provide value to our clients is, she could have done it. It was well within her capabilities to do it, but it was one of those things that drained energy from her rather than gave her energy. When she's designing and creating beautiful things, she comes to life, right? So she doesn't need to like really plan that time in her day, which is another kind of one of my things. Time management, I think, is a little bit misstated. Time just exists, or not, depending on your perspective, but you can't make more time by managing it better. You can only make more of the time that you have. And to me, that often leads to trying to just do way too much and multitasking, which is actually totally counterproductive. So I think way more about managing my energy and trying to like carve out deep work times for myself, because I'm a numbers girl. And so when I have to do my marketing, that to me feels like other people feel how they're doing their bookkeeping, like this, like, I know I got to do it. I know I got to do it. But there's such resistance in me that I have to do it at a time when my environment is really supportive of getting that work done. And so that was actually one of the things I gave Shelley as her homework, was like this thing that I call money dates, where you set a timer for 20 minutes, make sure that the lighting is right, you've got your favorite beverage in front of you, you've got good music to listen to, that you're not cold or hot, that you're comfortable, and only focus on your bookkeeping for 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, if you're not done, that's okay. You can still stop. And just to get into the habit of doing it, once a week, because that way, if you miss 1 week, it's not so bad to catch up. But if you're only scheduling it once a month, and then that starts to get pushed off, things pile up really easily. So just trying to like make things more bite-sized. But what's interesting to me is that all of the things we're going to talk about in terms of cash management and reporting works really well for people like Shelley. But I also, at the kind of other end of the spectrum of that, a lot of my clients that are photographers are very technical. And so they have no fear of numbers because they use them all the time in their light calculation. They're okay with spreadsheets, they're okay with math, but many of them have come to the realization of like, my time is just better spent somewhere else. And that's not always true when you're first starting out, right? When you're trying to keep costs down, you might only want to outsource the stuff that that really drains you, rather than the stuff that you're just kind of a little bit busy for. Is that a long answer to a short question? Okay.
Thanks.
5 basic reports. Here's what we're going to look at. The profit and loss, which is also called the income statement. I don't know why they call it different things, but they do. It just means money in, money out during a given period. The balance sheet account, which gives you the snapshot of what you have, what you owe, what's owed to you. The open invoices, which is the detailed list of who owes you. The unpaid bills, which is the detailed list of who you owe. And then a statement of cash flows that kind of answers the question, where did all the money go? So we'll take a look at that. But all of those reports are based on this thing called the chart of accounts. Check if I can click on my slides. The chart of accounts, and this is just a sample out of a software Xero that I really like for bookkeeping. It's a little bit cheaper than QuickBooks. It's a little bit cleaner than QuickBooks. So the chart of accounts is the definitive list of every way that money can come in, go out, hang around, or move around. So if your money does it and you want to track it, it has to be on your chart of accounts. So we've got your bank accounts where your money lives. We've got your current assets. The assets are things that add value. So that's like your accounts receivable, the money that people owe to you. Inventory would be an asset. A fixed asset is basically anything you can knock on. So that would be like your furniture, your fixtures, cars, buildings, land, etc. Liabilities is money that, is something that takes value away from your company. So that's money that you owe out. Loans, credit cards, personal loans, accounts payable, vacation time payable maybe. And then we've got our equity, which is just the value, which is almost always just your ownership. So when you take money out, if you're a single person or a LLC, that's just called an equity, owner's equity distribution. Doesn't really matter what it's called. You'll see it in your software. And then we've got our income, our expenses, and so any transfers between those accounts as well would also be on the chart of accounts, because the foundation of all bookkeeping, when it's double entry bookkeeping, which every good software should be, is that the money has to come from somewhere and go to somewhere. So if it came from your checking account, where did it go? What did you spend it on? Well, it could have been to pay back a loan, or it could have been to buy supplies. If the money came in, where did it come from? Was it income, or was it you putting money in, which isn't technically income because it's not earned by the business? And so this is one of the first places that I focus with people, because a lot of times people get started with just the default categories that come with their software and think that that is some sort of requirement for them to use. So, what happens is someone will see automobile expenses, for instance, on the chart of accounts, and even though they don't have a business car, they'll think they need to leave it. Well, you don't. So I like to go through and sort of talk through what are the questions you're asking, what are the things that are important to you to track, and then make sure that those are called what you wanted to call. So we might rename automobile expenses to mileage reimbursement, because if you're using your personal car for business, you can pay yourself back for the miles that you drive for business. And then we make other stuff inactive. And again, that's just to sort of reduce the visual clutter, so that you're only seeing the choices when you're going to categorize something that are relevant. And that just keeps things a little easier, so you don't, feel overwhelmed and like, what's the difference between supplies and office supplies? I don't know. It's just something your stupid software said that should have been fixed and wasn't. And it's nice to check in with your tax person. Sometimes there are IRS regulations that relate, like meals, for instance, are only 50% deductible, because you yourself are never deductible when you eat, because you have to eat anyways. So it's the person that you're taking out to dinner or lunch or coffee that you are allowed to deduct if you pay for them. That's a little bit different if you're buying your entire staff a meal, or your crew a meal, if you have a project crew. But again, that wouldn't then be meals. We'd want to call that something else. So I see the question, how many years can you take a loss before being audited by the IRS? There is no answer to that. You can take a loss for 3 years before being considered a hobby. And I think COVID has affected that. So let me just preface what I'm saying by saying I'm not a tax compliance person. I'm a management accountant, not a tax accountant. So you should always check with your tax person, because even 2 different accountants will have 2 different interpretations of the IRS law. But generally what the IRS says is, if you can't make money at this after 3 years, you don't have a business. Businesses make money. That's what they're for. So, and I think it's 3 years in a row. So I think you could have a 2 years of loss, 1 year of profit, another year of loss, and be okay. But again, for sure, check me with a tax person on that, so that I don't get you in trouble. Yeah, so that's, that's the question, is this category, consulting and accounting, correct? Well, it's correct if you like it. I might want to break that apart, call it accounting and bookkeeping, and have consulting be somewhere else. but it really just depends on how your brain works on those categories. So the questions that I think are always good to ask when thinking about, do I want to have this as a separate account, is, do I care what I'm spending on this versus that, or on here versus there? Is the cost material? Meaning, is it big enough to make a difference? If I'm tracking what I spend on my newspaper subscription and it's, $50 a year, that might not be worth its own line on the chart of accounts, right? Anything under $100, I usually say there's probably somewhere else we can fold that into. Let's just call that office part of your office supplies and be done. And then number 3 is there anything I can do to control this cost? So yeah, I could cancel that subscription if it got too high. But if it's my utilities, sure, I can try and keep the heat down a little bit lower, but I can't necessarily pick a different supplier. Depends. And then what about the accounts that you don't want or you don't use? You can just make them inactive. Almost every system will let you reactivate them if you change your mind and decide that you want them after all. So this is a sample income statement or profit and loss from the accounting software Xero. They come with a demo company that you can play around in. So I just grabbed a little screenshot, which you can see at the bottom there. So this company had $23,427 in income. Then there's a section called cost of goods sold, which is what did I have to spend in order to earn? So that could be literally the cost of the things that you sell if you're retail. If you're a service-based business, that might be the cost of the people that you pay to provide the service to your clients. Yeah, Robert, I can get these slides to you so you can email them over. That's fine. And then the operating expenses is the overhead. So when we talk about margins, that's what we're kind of trying to look at, is what's the relationship between how much I brought in versus how much it cost me to bring that in. If I didn't pay for a designer to work on that website, including myself, then that work wouldn't have gotten done. So that would be a direct cost or cost of goods sold. And then overhead is the sort of thing that every business has: rent, telephone, utilities, supplies. So I see the questions in there about owner's draw, CEO pay, et cetera. One of the challenges with the profit and loss is that if you are a solopreneur or in a single partner LLC, or even a multiple partner LLC, you're not running official payroll on yourself. You're just taking this owner's draw. And so it doesn't show up here. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you're really assigning your money a job, because that profit, that net income line at the bottom, that has to cover owner's pay, taxes, growth, security, emergencies, yeah, all that stuff. So you might be looking at this standard report and be getting bad information from that. So when you're doing an owner's draw, there's a whole system that I teach, Profit First, and I just actually boxed up my last copy of the book to send it to someone, so I don't have it to show it to you. But Robert, if you can just type Profit First, Mike McAllowitz, in the chat, and if not, I'll get that last name in there so you guys can see it. Get it from the library, get it online, but definitely get it, because that will tell you how to determine how much to pay yourself based on income. That how you pay yourself should be a percentage of income based on the size of your business. So in the Profit First world, after you account for some of the direct costs that that are important, you would then take a percentage of the what's called real revenue. And generally, when you're small, that could be 50% of your income, because you're doing likely all of the work that needs to happen both for the clients and to run the business, which means you should really only be spending about 30% of that income on your overhead. And that's a hard place to get to. A lot of people start more like 70%. So you can sort of see here, what's going on from that. And again, so this number should be a pretty good number from that relationship. That made no sense. I'll make that make sense on another slide. Give me 1 second. Yep. Yeah. So here's what we're talking about, right? So that traditional report that's in every software is income minus expenses equals profit. So the total income was 23,000 and change. The total expenses were 16,000 and change. That net profit left 6,700, which again, yay, we're making money, but are we making enough for it to cover all of those other things? Well, if that's a year's worth of income, the question is, can you pay taxes and live on 6,000? And if not, where's the rest of that money going to come from? So by simply flipping the equation, and this is sort of the heart of the profit first system, sales minus profit equals expenses. That once you set aside a certain amount of money to protect your profit and set aside money to make sure that you can pay your taxes, then what's left over is what you can spend on your overhead. And that gives you a natural budget. And when I mean set aside, I mean actually open a new bank account and put the money somewhere else so that you can look at the bank balance and see exactly what's happening. I'm just going to take a sip of tea because I'm talking so much. This is based on an idea called Parkinson's law, which essentially translates to as much as you have of a resource, you will use. I always think of this as me writing a term paper in high school where, if I had 2 weeks to finish it, it would take me 2 weeks to finish it. If I had 1 day to finish it, which often happened, I would finish it in 1 day. And so by giving yourself a smaller amount to play with, it tricks your brain into thinking that you have less to spend, and you suddenly become a creative problem solver in how to spend money and get that done. All right. The statement of cash flows explains the difference between what is your profit on that profit and loss or income statement, which was 6,000 and change, versus what's in your bank. And what's in your bank will be on the bank balance. So this, almost no one that I know looks at this report because again, all it tells you is that everything's balanced, which when we were using those, big long green sheets of paper with all the little rows in them, that was really important. But that's what's been automated by things like QuickBooks Zero, Wave, FreshBooks, etc. So this report essentially just sort of shows you, well, you spent 14,000. And then there was this other money that moved that went to pay for assets. So it's not going to show up on your income and expense list, but it means you don't have that cash. So to me, this is just not a very friendly report, but that's what the purpose is. There's also 2 different ways of looking at reports. One is called cash, and the other is accrual. And accrual tracks when the promise was made. So in this case, in receipts from customers, if we're looking at this number based on an accrual basis, that would be everybody that I've sent an invoice to, whether or not I've been paid. And if I was looking at it on a cash basis, it would only look at money that I actually deposited, regardless of when the sale was made. So it's useful to be able to look at that P&L statement both ways to kind of see how your sales flow is versus your cash flow. But again, it's just sort of why that cash report is not super helpful to most business owners. So here's a balance sheet that again just tells us, oh, okay, we've got 10,000 in our checking account, right? So if our profit was 6,000, why do we have 10,000 in the bank? Well, because we started with some in the bank and then we added and took it away, and this is where we ended up. And so again, it just gives you the little snapshot. Most of the things in the lower half, again, don't really help small business. Most people just focus on the checking account, credit card balances, accounts receivable, accounts payable, or sales tax payable. Then there's the detail report of who owes you and how old it is. it is super important, if you don't get cash at time of service, that you try not to let things get beyond 30 days. The further away they get from 30 days, the less likely you are to collect. And once they make it past 90 days, it's really a pain. And so again, when we talk about why is money so expensive, or how can a successful business go out of business, if they're making sales, this is why. If that collection cycle is too long, then you're essentially acting as a creditor or a loan to your customers, that they've taken your services and they haven't paid you yet. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Same thing with aged payables. Do customers really pay late fees? It depends. I write that into all of my contracts. I almost never collect late fees, but it's nice to have it in the contract so that I can say, hey, your invoice is 30 days overdue. We apply late fees starting at day 31. If you'd like to avoid the late fee, please pay. And sometimes they'll ignore that. But if they see that late fee show up on their invoice, then I'm likely to get a frustrated call from them saying, oh, why are you charging me a late fee? And I go, oh, it's as per our contract. I'm happy to waive it if you're ready to make a payment. So sometimes that late fee is just a way to get them to contact me. Yeah. And so if you work in an industry like Michelle, who's working with the insurance companies who never pay on time, same thing with, unfortunately, a lot of large magazine publications for photographers. If you publish a photo in Vogue, you can expect to wait 90 days to get paid. Like, they do not care. So knowing that that's the case, you can then plan for that longer cycle. If there's nothing you can do about it, you can plan around it, right? We control the things we can control. And so part of that then means paying my bills as late as I can without becoming actually late, having better relationships with my vendors and saying, I'm not going to get paid for 60 days. Can I get terms with you? Because, you just have to think of what it's like in their shoes. You are in their shoes. It really sucks if someone takes 90 days to pay you and doesn't give you a heads up on that. But if someone says, hey, I'm waiting for payment on a client, I know that I owe you, I'm just waiting for that money to come in, then I have the opportunity to say, is there anything that you can pay me right now? Or that's okay, you can take another 15 days. I'll make a note and I'll just make other plans so that I don't overspend until that money comes in. All right. Questions. I know that we had that question in there about if you are incorporated and do take a payroll, the idea is still the same. It's still based on this percentage of income to divide the money up between operating expenses, profit, tax, owner's pay, so that everything is predetermined where it goes and gives you a lovely budget without having to track a big spreadsheet of budget versus actuals, which oftentimes is totally out of date the minute that you finish it. So yeah, let me stop my screen share and we can all come back together. You can type questions in the chat. You can just unmute as long as everybody doesn't unmute all at once. What questions have ye?
There is a question in chat right now.
Great.
How do you see it? Should I continue to have my self-employment income go into my business checking account and then transfer it into my personal checking for life expenses?
When you say self-employment income, you mean your business income, yeah?
Yeah, so I have W-2 income, but then I also have 1099 income. So
Yes.
on my website, I have people paying me through PayPal, and then that goes deposits into my business checking. But obviously I use that money to live on. So then I transfer it to my personal checking account. Is that even what I'm supposed to be doing?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Oh, thank God. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because you want to be able to see in your business on that income statement, here's all the money I earned. That agrees. That lines up to what my bank thinks too. And then I just paid myself most of that. And again, when you're earning less than $250,000, you should be expecting to pay yourself about half that because you're doing all of the work and running the business. That's not always possible when you're starting. Sometimes you're overcommitted to software subscription fees or whatever. But again, if you're finding that, somebody pays you $1,000 and you have to leave more than 500 in the business to cover those expenses, right? And we haven't yet calculated tax savings or profit. Hopefully you only need to leave about 300 in the business to cover the overhead expenses. Otherwise, begin to look at what is a real expense that I have to spend money on. That's like really more of an investment. If I cut this expense, my service would suffer or my mental health would suffer because I would have no system, versus this was a cool, shiny thing that seemed like it might be fun. And yeah, it was great. And sure, it added a bell or a whistle. But if I hadn't bought it, probably nobody but me would have noticed. And those are the things to cut first. Okay. Yeah, we have customers that didn't pay us, so we filed a judgment. How do we enforce the judgment painlessly? I have no idea. I'm not even 100% sure how you enforce the judgment, right? I have a client that decided to walk out with owing me $8,000. That was probably 10 years ago. I'm never going to see that money. That's why it's important to try to make sure you're getting paid along the way. Try to make sure you're getting retainers, trying to make sure you're getting some prepayments. It's possible to run credit checks on companies. I think it's expensive. I've never bothered to do it. But if I have a big client coming on, I will often Google them just to see, like, are there complaints? What's up? What's going on? Yes, if you're starting a business and you're using existing resources like a laptop, and have to purely business or personal tools you have for business in the future, how to list them on the balance sheet, don't bother. I wouldn't bother. If you're just starting, that's getting too fussy, right? If you buy something, so the reason to list something on the balance sheet is because it is big enough of an expense, usually at least over $1,000, if not 15. So like a computer kind of falls around in there. It is to your advantage to take the full write-off as an expense this year. Otherwise, you have to depreciate it, meaning you only get to take 20% of it over the next 5 years. So you have less of a write-off. So the good news about that is it lets you take smaller chunks. So if you're not earning, you're not trying to over write off, but you can usually roll that stuff forward anyways. But it's just, again, it's just fussy. And so if the business didn't purchase it and you're just using your personal computer, don't worry about it. I think it's more important to start a savings account called New Computer and start funding $10 a week in there, or $10 a month even, so that when it's time to buy that new computer, you've got that cash there, than it is to list it on the balance sheet. That's for your accountant to worry about. When starting a business and self-financing, when do you separate out finances from business to personal? ASAP. You for sure want to get a business use bank account, even if you're not at the place where you have a corporate anything. You should at least have a separate account, even if it's 2 separate personal accounts. If one should be intended for use for business, and then if you have an LLC or a DBA or any of that stuff, you can change that. But you want to get those 2 things separate. Think of them like siblings, right? Related, but not the same. And part of that, for me, one of the biggest reasons is if you are ever audited by the IRS, it's like leaving your bathroom door wide open and telling them, come on into the private stuff. I have nothing to hide. When in fact, there really should be a closed door between you and your business, because you don't want to invite, if the IRS is looking at you personally, you don't want to show them everything that's happening in your business, and vice versa. And if you blend the funds, that's what they do. Yeah, so in order to open a business bank account, you would have to have your EIN number, your employer identification number, or something to indicate that you're a business. And so that's where I say, just open a second account and then worry about that technical stuff later. Unless it's like you're getting that number at the end of this week, then just wait a week. But in general, you want to have at least separate, and same with credit cards, right? If you are in the habit of using a credit card, which I would make sure you can pay your balance off every month, you don't want to use the same credit card for business and personal. You want everything to be separate. You don't want your sister grabbing your credit card and going on her shopping trip with that, even if it's just groceries, right? You want her to ask politely first and say, hey, I'm a little short on cash. Can I borrow your credit card to get some groceries? Well, of course, you're my sister. I love you. Take whatever you need. But to have that clear boundary between you. All right.
So Allie asked a question that was just really just at the tip of my tongue, so perfect timing. This whole concept of writing it off. Well, I'll just buy that. It's a write-off. From my understanding, you're still paying for it. You buy that $1,000 laptop, you're still paying $1,000.
Yes. That's like buying something really expensive because it's on sale, right? Think of how much you're saving. Yeah, but you're still spending a bunch that you didn't need to spend at all. So that mentality is what drives businesses out of business, right? Oh, I want the write-off. I want to lower my taxes. Before you worry about lowering your taxes, let's make sure you can pay your taxes. And so I'm way more of a fan of trying to save up money so that when you need something, you have the cash to buy it. If you get to the end of the year and you really don't want to give the government your money, which is up to you, then maybe you can support a local charity or an international charity or whatever kind of charity you want to get a deduction that you would not have otherwise had to have with your extra money. But if you're just reinvesting, that's just an expense. And so be very careful of what you spend as an expense because you just have to reinvest or it takes money to make money or whatever. It's not wrong. It's just not always right. Okay. We got a couple more that came in. Yep. How does the business owner purchase something when the owner, yes.
That one's kind of like the write-off, I think.
Yeah, I personally still have to pay the actual money until income comes in. Yes. So absolutely. So in the beginning of business, you just have to think that, and essentially what happens is the business needs a certain amount of income. And I'm at time. The business needs a certain amount of income in order to survive, in order to pay its obligations. Until you have clients that are giving you that income comes from you. And so you need to be really aware, what is my monthly cost and what can I afford to put in the business? So if I have a day job and I'm doing my new business, like as a transition, hopefully will be full-time, but not yet, of what I'm earning right now, what can I afford to put in my business? And that becomes the business income, right? It's not earned, it's not taxable, but that's what your business has to work with. Because if you spend more than that, you are stressing not only your business, but your personal life. So, again, credit card debt has an insane interest rate on it. Be very careful about financing your business through credit cards. Go slow in the beginning, and have a plan of, if I spend this money, how is it going to earn me money? Not just how does it make my life easier? How does it make my client's life easier? How does it make my product better? And how is this expense going to earn me money? Okay. Do you still file taxes? Yeah, maybe. That's a tax question. Check with a tax person. I think there's a good answer from Robert in there, so I'm not going to add to it. City has an audit on fixtures. That the furniture and fixtures is a balance sheet Yeah. Do you support the idea of a company having an emergency fund? Absolutely, right? We hear a lot, you should have a personal emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. But if your business does not have that emergency fund, then that's not going to be enough, right? And again, I think the pandemic proved that point to everyone that was running a business. Like if your business doesn't have a cushion, it immediately goes to your personal. So both you and your business should have a growing cushion. Again, Profit First, that book gives you a great way. If you do it on a percentage base, you can use a little bit to pay down debt while you're saving money. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things about the business cushion is it's definitely cash in the bank, cash is king. But if you had a product, let's say you had a product business, if you had extra inventory, that's also a cushion where you don't have to replenish your supplies, sell it and earn that income. Conversely, if you spend too much on product and have, 6 months of product on your shelves, that's money you can't use for other things in your business. So there is a balance there.
Yep. And if you do have inventory, that would be one of the accounts. I sort of talked about these 4 accounts. I would have an inventory repurchase account. So when you sell an item, that's your direct cost, right? You sell something for $5, it costs you $2. When you take that $5 in, you put immediately 2 of those dollars into your inventory repurchase account so that when it comes time to rebuy the inventory, you have the cash available to do it.
So I'm gonna ask you 2 questions, but I'm gonna kind of just drop one thing that really had helped me at the beginning of when I started business, which was a bookkeeper told me to get a file folder with 12 sections in it, and at minimum, just each month, the receipts go in that one, and that got me off on the right track. Instead of the one shoebox with just everything thrown in there, it was a step in the right direction.
Baby steps.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Ian. With some parting words, I'm curious about, like, this is a 2-part question. One is kind of tactical of like, are there any, like, really get QuickBooks or get, what are some good tools? And then the second part would be, if each one of the 66 people online were going to do one thing to keep their eye on their financial health of their business, what would that be?
That is a great question. I think that one thing is going to be slightly different for everyone depending on where they are. The only one that I can give universally to all of you is read the book Profit First or listen to it. Because no matter where you're at, that has the cash management system that I believe everyone should be following. Yeah. And
so that's good for just startups or people that are actually been in business for a little while.
Yes, it's good for everyone at every phase of the business.
Is that the one by Michael Mikowicz?
Mike Michalowicz, yeah.
Okay, because there's 2 of those books by the different authors.
Yes, Mike
okay,
Michalowicz is the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then repeat your first question again.
Any kind of tools, like you had mentioned Xero. I put the link in chat. Tools that they could use to help manage.
Yeah, and I'll put the book in the chat in just a second. It depends a little bit on what stage you're at and what kind of business you have. It's sort of, it also depends on what the front end is. So if you have a brick and mortar and you have a POS system, does it integrate with QuickBooks and nothing else? Then go with QuickBooks. Doesn't matter what I like. I prefer this software called Xero, Xero. Again, cheaper, cleaner, easier. All of the recent developments in QuickBooks, they have taken directly from Xero. If you are a small service-based business and don't plan on scaling huge soon, waveapps.com is another great one. It's free, which is why I like it. It has some limitations. It's not true double entry, But in terms of being able to send out invoices, get paid, track what's happening, it's amazing. You can take pictures of your receipts so you don't have to shove them in a file, unless you're a paper person and that's what works for you. Technology has just made tracking everything so much easier. The last thing I would say is if you have a question, just shoot me an email or shoot Robert an email. And PayPal is not my favorite invoicing system. It's a great payment system. Almost everybody has it, but it's a pretty high fee. There's just some other options out there. Do your research and so talk to other people in your area, whatever your industry is. Talk to the other people in your space and figure out what they've figured out so that you don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah. Well, great presentation. Thank you so much. So you, Ian has, I know you have, I've been on your Facebook page. I think you have a YouTube channel. You have some classes, don't you? You have some stuff online.
We do. We've got a 3-month, we've got a little mini product. It's a little $97 videos of me and Mike Michalowicz walking you through the Profit First system. So if you read the book and want more, that's an option. We have a free Facebook group. They changed the name of it. It used to be Profit First for Creatives. Then we called it Abundantly Clear. Now it's like Free and Clear Finance. I can't remember. I should know that. I'm on Facebook. If you find me, I'm probably the only Ian Price Murphy out there. Then you'll likely see the group that I'm connected to, or just DM me and I'll get you in. We've got we've got a whole Profit First group program that we do in a 3-month and a 12-month section. So we're out there.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ian, for your time, and I hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Yes, masked up, we'll do it.
Okay, feel free to hang out or, get ready for the big snowstorm or whatever you need to do.
Cool.
But you're welcome to hang out. I'm going to mute you.
I will.
Okay, thanks. Great. All right, cool, everybody. I hope you got a lot out of that. I know I did. So I'm gonna share a file with everybody in chat. It's something I just quickly put together. It's nothing visually stunning at all, but I do want to go through some things with you. Let me get this up, sorry. And it's really about all of the different software you use to run your business. Some people call it like a software stack. And so first off, I want to go over some concepts. I know that every one of you out there uses a whole slew of software. Some of this might be redundant for you. This part is interactive. If I'm covering an area and you're like, oh my gosh, this is one I missed, or you missed, just type your favorite, your favorite accounting software, your favorite newsletter software, that kind of thing. I'll say that I'm not making any recommendations. There's just a ton of software out there that people use, but I'm just illustrating like all of the tools. Like, you're an entrepreneur and you have to do a lot of business, a lot of aspects, and wear a lot of hats. And there's software tools out there for you to use. And I'm sure it's like, oh, I got to register for that. Oh, someone told me I need to be on that. Oh, I need a Facebook business page. Oh, I needed this. I needed that. I need, and you got all this stuff and all this. It's just a lot. It's a lot of stuff. So when you're starting out, or if you're already in business and you're kind of rolling, it's good to look at what your software stack is and try to streamline that as much as possible, because you don't want to spend all this time looking for passwords or having to re-enter information, losing track of where did I put that note. It's time consuming and frustrating. So there's, overall in your day, there's your workflow. And if your workflow is streamlined, then you're going to have that much more time to actually do your job. You know, would you rather be looking for your keys or driving to where you want to go? So, yeah, Zoho is a good one. I will cover that. So first, I want to just cover some basic, some higher level concepts. It used to be that you would go to the store, buy software, put a CD-ROM in your computer, install the software. That was, you know, and that still happens a little bit. But now it's, you know, you sign up for Xero online to do all of your accounting. It's a software as a service. There's software out there, and that's what you subscribe to. And so you don't have to keep on getting updates and all that stuff. It's, in theory, it should just work. The bummer is if the internet's down, then your software's down. But that's what software as a service is. A lot of the software that you use online is based on a freemium model. There's a free bit of software, and oh, you actually want to print this out? Oh, now you got to buy it. Or, oh, you know, your 14 days are up, now you got to buy it. So there's a limited, like, mailing, so like a newsletter software. Oh, once your list grows past 1,000 people, it's like, there's all these different, I just download and say, oh, it's free, okay, cool. But it's not always free. So that's something to think about. You'll get a copy of this. It's already in your chat right now. You can download it, this file in your chat. And again, I hastily put this together, so I'm not taking any responsibility for typos and stuff. Another concept, some of you might totally get this, but I'm going to just cover it. Cloud, the cloud. It seems like this amorphous thing that no one knows about. Some people don't know about. You have a hard drive on your computer. That's where all your data lives. Or you can upload it to a storage online. Right now, if the computer I'm using completely died, none of my critical data would be lost. I could go to another computer and basically, you know, in a half hour be up and running again with all of my software, because it's all on the cloud and all my files are on the cloud. But I also back it up onto a hard drive. I have a hard drive at my home, and I have a hard drive in my safe deposit box. And every once in a while, I go to my safe deposit box, get my hard drive out of there, sync both the hard drives, and put the other one in the safe deposit box. So like I'll have it on a removable hard drive at home, on my computer, and one in the bank. And also on Dropbox and iCloud and all over the place. So it's kind of crazy, but it's my system and it works for me. But I have some backup. One of the things to think about also is file formats. Oftentimes Google or QuickBooks or Google Analytics, other different software will let you export your data, but they'll have their own format, they'll have all this wonky stuff, but they pretty much, like if it's a spreadsheet type data, they'll allow you to export it as a CSV file, a .csv file. So that's a good thing to look at when you're going to say, I'm going to invest my time into this piece of software. I'm going to run this critical piece of business on this piece of software, and sure, I'll pay $29.95 a month for it because it's so critical. But if I ever want to change, I want to export all that data. And so make sure that you look at how you can export your data into out, and so you can upload it to a different piece of software. I'm going to recommend, like, let's say it was accounting software, or people are going to say, what web host do you recommend? Well, I really can't really recommend a specific host. I do have one on here, but there's tons and tons of web hosts. If you have a WordPress site, it might be different, or, you know, there's tons of hosts out there. And so if you go to Google best web hosting site, you're going to get a ton of articles on that. And many, many, many of those articles get paid a fee when you click on their link and sign up for that web hosting. It's like a referral program. In the link that they write, like, my favorite host is DreamHost. Click here to register now. This is why it's so great. And you click and you register. When you click on that link, there's a little snippet of code that says it came from Robert's blog, and I get paid, $1 or $10 or 20 cents a month that you stay registered or whatever it is. So you have to make sure it's not fake news. There's a term called a splog, which is a spam blog. And that's how people make their living, doing that, doing review sites. They make review sites with a bunch of links that all go to Amazon, or you see YouTube videos that say, if you like what I just showed you, click on the link below. That link out below, that's how they're making their money. So what I do is I go to a bunch of those sites if it's a really important consideration. And if the same one keeps on bubbling up near the top, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to dig into that site and check it out. If you are using software and you download software and there's the installer and you're like, next, 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 and it's like free photo editing software. And you're like, oh, I need to edit photo. Next, next, next. Oh, it's installed. In those, when you're clicking next, it's like, do you want us to install? And then they install a bunch of other crap. So just slow down and really be careful. And it's okay to just cancel and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Because then it's like, why is my computer running so slow? So those are just things to be mindful of. My power is going on and off right now, so just giving you a heads up. We're having a killer storm coming in up here. Okay, Google, my number one thing, I might have said this earlier in class, another night, my number one thing for you to do is go to Google My Business and claim your business on Google. It's going to be awesome for search engine optimization. You're playing in the Google world. It's better than paying for ads. Like, go register your business on. I'd almost be as bold to say, like, if you do anything from this class at all, register your business, Google My Business. It's super important. It's free. You show up high up on Google. If someone's like, hey, Siri, where's the closest barbershop? And you're a barbershop and you're close to that barbershop, it's going to bring you up with a map. And it's going to, people are driving on their phone and they can say, call the closest barbershop or whatever. It's going to be you. When someone says barbershops near me, you show up near the top without paying for it. It's super important. Google has a whole slew of free cloud, photos. I've already said about Google Voice. Super important. Yeah, we have 15 minutes, so I'm going to really have to barrel through this stuff. And if you have anything you want to add, sharing is caring, so put it in the chat. Thank you. How long does Google My Business last? As long as Google lasts. As long as your business lasts, or until they start wanting to charge you for it. Google, claim your business. Claim your business. One of the things I will say is, if you're set on your business name, then you're not on Snapchat. Well, maybe someday you're going to be on Snapchat. Let's say I'm going to use Ian's business, Moxie Bookkeeping. If Moxie Bookkeeping, okay, my business is in Moxie Bookkeeping. I'm going to Facebook and getting Moxie at Moxie Bookkeeping. Instagram at Moxie, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of them. Because so what if you never use it? At least you have got your name. So when your business blows up, someone else, doesn't have your name. It's almost impossible to get your name from them. And it's really great. I can see businesses with cool names and they just start out and it's just like, find me at Moxie Bookkeeping because they got it all. They don't need to say Instagram Moxie.bookkeeping and Facebook Moxie Bookkeeping and then on Twitter Moxie-bookkeeping. And it's just like at Moxie Bookkeeping. Cool. You just claimed your territory. Go to Yelp, go to all those places and claim it. So I do see some chat stuff going on, but I do want to make sure I cover some highlights here. We did the accounting stuff. Social media, going to reiterate, get a business page. No one wants to see your cat pictures. It's your business. Unless you're a cat business, they don't want to see your cat pictures. They don't want to see your political views. They don't want to see that stuff for the most part. When you establish your business page, your business, you look legitimate, you're a serious business person, it gives you extra tools. One of the things is analytics, where you can look into, when you do ads and things like that. It really, really helps. Separate your bank account, like Ian was saying, your bank and your personal. Separate your personal digital presence, your social media presence for your business. And so these links they're not hyperlinked, but they're super important. LinkedIn is the place for business. LinkedIn is the place for business. Something like 80% of all social media business referrals come from LinkedIn, even though Facebook is the big monster in the room. If you want to do business referrals, your business should have a LinkedIn presence, and you should have a LinkedIn presence. It's where business happens. It's, people have this idea that LinkedIn is basically a resume site. It's way more than that. And if you want me to tour through my LinkedIn page on Thursday, I'd be happy to do that. Let's see. Okay. Social media management. So you have like 2 or 3 platforms, and Instagram wants the image this size, and Twitter wants it that size. Twitter only allows a certain amount of characters, and Facebook is like this. And you have you can't just post on one, use the same thing on all the platforms. I'm sure you've all seen images like cut off, and it looks not professional. There are tools out there to help you. What next week, by the way, is we don't have a fantastic guest presenter. It's me on next Tuesday, me talking all about marketing. It's one of my specialties. And I get really into the integrated marketing plan, which involves, on the first of the month, planning out what you're going to post for the month, and doing a strategic calendar and storytelling and posting. And I'd much rather people spend time interacting and engaging with customers, as opposed to having that sinking feeling like, I know I should be posting, I don't know what I post, I'll just retweet this thing and I'm done and run away. It's like a strategic way to post, and there's tools out there which allow you to set up posts, preview it on different platforms, schedule it out so you're constantly or regularly sending posts out. There's a social media management tool. Oh yeah, we got some Canva fans up there. I'm gonna just scroll back to this. Domains, I like Namecheap. They're cheap. They can buy a domain name. So for your business, you have Moxie Bookkeeping, you want moxiebookkeeping.com. You might want moxiebookkeeping.org or .net or whatever. You need to find if it's available. You go to one of these domain name registrars and you pay a certain amount of money every year. Oftentimes, they will do a bait and switch where the first year is super inexpensive and the next year is more expensive. But if you're just starting out, just get a domain, get your domain name. And oftentimes, if you're going to sign up for something like Shopify or Wix, I saw, a student is doing a Wix site. Oftentimes, it's like sign up for Wix, pay the subscription, and you get a free domain for the year. Just like your mobile phone number, just like your phone number, once you have it, you own it. It's yours. And you can switch domain name registrars whenever you want. You own that domain. Be careful, once you register for your domain, you're going to get a lot of scammers that are saying like, pay us $300, your domain is expired, and just keep tabs on it. Don't fall for the scams, and set your domain name on auto renew. It's only going to cost you $10 if you make a mistake, but you don't want to lose your domain. So that's a really good tip, I think. I did put an article on CNET about web hosting just to get you started. Obviously, we're on Zoom. Obviously, it's COVID, but Zoom isn't the only thing out there. There's Google Hangouts. Some people like that a lot more. And there's that, I'm in the Google world. I want to integrate in the Google world. There's some good tools there. And remember Skype? Like, what happened to Skype? Skype is a good one too. I am not a fan of Microsoft Meet. It destroys my computer, and every meeting I've been in, it just falls apart. Although it is, if you need a higher level of security, it does offer that higher level of security. So if you're in the medical field or highly sensitive stuff, that might be a good thing. Is Namecheap better than GoDaddy? I don't know if I could or should say this, but I'm going to. The GoDaddy to me is, if you believe in social justice, or I would take a serious look at the people that own that company and what they stand behind. Not only that, I have had GoDaddy accounts, and I'm constantly seeing stuff charged on my account that I have to fight, and they're like, oh, well, how did that setting happen? And I have to just be on top of it. They're not a fan. Okay, Fast and Furious, I love this. Free conference call, good one, yeah. GoDaddy's like the mafia. Graphics, I pretty much suck at graphic design. And Canva is one of the sites that you can not suck. You might look a little clip arty, but it's a not sucky clip art. And they're really good. You want to put a flyer together, or you're like, I need a banner for my Facebook page. I need an ad for Instagram. I need this for Twitter. And it tells you the dimension, and you drag and drop, and it's really, really helpful. It's one of the services I actually pay some extra money for. They're constantly updating. They give all kinds of download options and template. And I don't have to worry about being all hip and cool, because they at least are along with the trends of what works. Calendly is, if you are a service business and people need to make appointments, it's a web tool. It integrates into your website. It integrates into your calendar, like Google Calendar. And instead of saying, oh, how about Tuesday at 3 or Wednesday at 4? And, oh, well, I'm not available those days. And then there's this back and forth and back and forth. What I do, it took me a little while to get used to, but I was just like, here's my calendar. Schedule at your convenience. And I just have certain times blocked out that people can schedule. And it just eliminates the back and forth. It automatically sends them a Zoom link. Done. I see a schedule pop up in my calendar. Done. It sends them reminders. It's great. Oh, good. Nicole likes Calendly too. Project management. This is a um, whole category where software takes a bunch of different approaches. So people ask me, which one do you like best? And it's really a lot about your working style. Evernote is a great to-do list, and also you're searching the web and you're like, oh, click this page, and it sends it to Evernote. It synchronizes between your phone and your desktop. I love it. It's another one I pay for. CRM is customer relationship management. It's this is someone had suggested Zoho. I like HubSpot, and it's where you keep all of your contacts. You can track sales, you can keep notes of your sales calls, you can see where they are in the sales funnel, how much they've given you over the lifetime of business, which emails they open up, all this data. So you can make informed decisions about that customer. You know, you might want to like call people on their birthday, and if for some reason you know their birthday, it's like, here are your customers with their birthday. Send them a handwritten note, whatever. You guys know in San Francisco, the Salesforce building, the largest building in San Francisco, guess what kind of software they make? They make customer relationship management software. That's how big that is. That's what Salesforce is. So there's tools that are like at our level that is manageable for us. So thank you so much for posting all this stuff. Ian did talk a bit about Venmo and PayPal. She mentioned FreshBooks. I am a horrible speller, grammar, word processing, like Microsoft Word has some, but Grammarly, awesome. It integrates into your browser. And so when you're typing emails or you're filling out forms online or just typing whatever, it checks your spelling and grammar. It's great. Password management. I'm just going to red flag this again and say, I am not recommending this because passwords are so, the key to the castle. But I do use LastPass. I have one master password, and then when I go to the website, each website has a different, like, crazy password with all these characters and stuff like that. That is like super strong passwords. I don't have to remember them. It fills it in. And how many people forget their password and try to forget, every time you want to log into that site, it's like, that's why I pulled all my hair out. That's why I got a password management, because it's so infuriating. So yeah, LastPass is what I use, if that's what Nicole is asking. And integration, Zapier is a software. Let's say you have MailChimp for your newsletter, and you have Venmo. I'm not even sure if there's a Zap for that. But it's like, for every person that makes a purchase on Venmo, they have to put their name and address and their email when they're making that purchase. And if it's set up that you get that information, you can use a Zap from Zapier to send that to your email list. So now they're automatically on your email list. So there's all these softwares that I just described to you, and then there's many more that I didn't describe to you, different software categories. Wouldn't it be nice if they could talk with each other? And so there is software that does that. And some of it is paid, some of it is not. So you can streamline your workflow. And that is super important, because your time is extremely valuable. It's 7:31. I went a minute over. Sorry about that, but I think you'll forgive me. Thursday, we can talk more about this. I'm going to save the chat stuff so I can add to this list. And again, I want to thank Ian Price Murphy, as my lights are flickering here, for everything. Moxie Bookkeeping. I'm going to hang out as long as I can till the lights go off, feel free to hang out or just unmute yourself, say bye. And it was a great class. And Thursday, unless I'm stuck in my house, which I won't be, I'll see you on Thursday at 6. So
Thank you. Good class.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you,
Robert.
Anne.
Thank you, Robert.
Great input,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Love the interactivity. How you doing, Nicole?
My lights are flickering and I have metal furniture that is being thrown around by the wind right now. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to, up in the mountains, we're supposed to get between now and Friday, I don't know, piles of snow.
Yeah. Well, we need it. We absolutely need it.
Yeah. And so at my co-working place, I got a grant to get a generator here. So we have a generator and then 2 internet services. So if the power's out, we have power. And then if one internet's down, we still have another internet. So it's like backup. So I'm pretty confident. I'm in walking distance too from work. So I'm pretty confident Thursday was a go, even if Nicole, the wind prevents you from coming. We'll still do class.
I hope not. Well, if I need to, I'll go into the office.
Yeah. Cool. So anyone want to say hi, unmute yourself?
Hey, Robert. Great class. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
I have a question, like with regard to the bookkeeping. Since I'm in the beginning phase or starting phase of the company, I'm still figuring it out. So, I mean, that keeps me nervous, a little bit of bookkeeping and whatnot. That's not my area of expertise. So should I wait to understand how all it is done and then go into it? Or can I do it in parallel? Like, would it take like an year to get used to it? Or should I start the business and then understand it? It's sometimes harder, which comes first? What should I do? So just trying to get your inputs on that.
Yeah, I think there's all these things are in parallel with what you're doing. I think it would be a good idea to get a separate bank account. And even if it's just in your name, if you don't have a business name yet, to be able to open the business under that business entity, just have a separate account. And even like you're probably self-funding your business. Let's say you had $1,000 from your personal account. Put it in the bank, your business bank account.
Okay.
And just spend out of that would be helpful. And you'd also get a separate ATM card, let's say, even if you can't get a credit card. Another helpful thing that like you can't go wrong with, if you just had a spreadsheet, do you use spreadsheets at all?
Yes.
Even if you just had a spreadsheet, you kept your receipts and then kept a running spreadsheet on this day, I spent this much at this company. And every transaction, you just tracked it, it's gonna help. Another thing that, I should have really emphasized this, but tracking your miles is huge. For every mile you drive, it's 56 cents.
Okay.
So start tracking that is super important. And then when you get Xero or Wave or any of these accounting things, it'll be in your spreadsheet. And guess what? You can export that as a CSV file, which would be imported into your, you could find a way to make that work. So don't let it stop you from starting your business.
Okay. Yeah, too many things to follow. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should understand all the basics of it before all the bookkeeping, then go into it. So I'm debating myself like how to start and where to start from. So thank you.
Yeah, start. That's why you're in this class, right? We're gonna start your business.
Yes.
Start
Yes.
selling. We'll just track it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, so this kind of ties into what Robert was just saying, and I had a question about it also. So I got a Cricut Maker and made myself a logo, and I just cut my first like big decal. I don't know if you can see it.
Right on.
But my question was, I've heard that once you put advertising on your vehicle, you're able to write off some of the expenses. Is that true before you before you actually establish the LLC or corporation or whatever you're doing? Like, because I've built a website, I've built a social media. I just haven't actually put the money in to register it with the state yet.
Yeah, this is, as you probably have noticed, that even Ian, who is the accounting expert, shies away from answering tax questions because it's just, we just can't answer that question. But because I'm not a tax accountant, and that's, there's a real obligation and liability with that. Courtney, I do see your question. But I will say this, that business mileage is a 56 cents per mile that you can track and use as a business expense. I don't know what you call that, the click maker click thing, buying that is a business expense. The sign on your car is an advertising expense. So to that level, yeah, sticker on your car or not, that I know is true. Is there an added bonus to putting that on your car? Does it make miles, personal miles that you're driving now business miles? I don't know about that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The wind just blew something big down on it. Oh, it was the flag?
Ladder.
Oh, the ladder.
Oh, what area are you in?
In Antelope, just like north of Sac.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you. Courtney, you want to go?
I have a question and I had a comment to make on his. Oh, how do I lower my hand? There we go. Our accountant told us, I don't know how this works, but our accountant told us that if you put marks on your car, that you are almost sort of inviting trouble, because if people find out you have like a corporation or something like that, they might, aim for you. So you might want to think about it in that kind of aspect, that you're kind of a sitting duck. So it may not be worth it for advertising purposes. I don't know how you feel about that, Robert, but my question is I have a couple. I had one about the DBA. She kind of mentioned it. Ian kind of mentioned it. Do you have any opinion on doing DBAs? Because we have an S Corp. So every time I've asked our accountant, they kind of are like, no, you should just make separate businesses. And I think it's kind of for that same purpose. Do you think that if something were to happen, you get sued, then it kind of rolls into the bigger umbrella company?
Yeah. A couple of things I'll say about that. Number one, on February 9th, Panda Morgan is the person to ask in this class. Well, I'll take that back. She's going to be addressing those types of questions.
Okay.
The other thing is, I don't feel qualified to answer that. And I bet you Nicole has more insight than I do on it. You want
Okay.
to give it a stab?
Panda is a great resource. She, right off the top of her head, she'll be able to answer whatever questions you have. I would 100% talk to her about that.
Okay.
She's also an advisor with the Sierra Small Business Development Center too. So if you give them a call, or if you're able to give them a call, let them know that you have questions, and you might possibly like an appointment with Panda.
Okay.
So that's an option.
Thank you, Nicole. So Courtney, you had another question?
I was gonna ask, because you were mentioning a bunch of social media stuff. A lot of people have like link trees for their Instagram, because Instagram only lets you put one
Yes.
thing. Do you think that it's worth it, or how do you feel about that? Because I that's another expense, right? So when you're just starting out, I don't know how important it is to have like, oh, you have, because sometimes you have to farm out like where you want everyone to go. It's not all on one cohesive.
Yes. If you have the capacity to do it, and social media is an important part of your marketing strategy, and you can, if you have all those different platforms, yeah,
Okay.
use it. I think that is important because, Instagram does have some limitations, especially with linking.
Yeah.
So if you can do it, do it.
Thank you.
And I would just say, like, pick, if you're just starting out, pick 3 platforms and do them well. It's like if you go to a YouTube page, or like they're like, click here, and it's just like a half filled out profile. It's like, why did you make me click that? You're wasting my time.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Anybody?
Robert, I have another question.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm looking like a product-based service company. I'm trying to build some custom furniture or so. I'm looking for a resource personnel. Where would be the best place for me to look? Maybe for like a contractors initially, and maybe if I expand my market and if I have enough orders to place, maybe I will hire a full-time employee later. But in the interim, I am looking for resources to find a handyman or a contractor or a carpenter of some sort. Where would be the best place for me to look for that?
I'm gonna defer to Nicole too, because I know the plaster business has some resources.
Yeah, so the best place to look is the state contractors board.
Okay.
I believe you can search it by location, but then you're also going to be able to find out who's in your location, and 2, make sure they're actually licensed. And then they also give ratings.
Okay.
So you can see if there's anything pending on them, any previous lawsuits, things like that.
Is there a website? Sorry, is there a website for them where I can look?
Yeah, so if you Google state, I believe it's just the State Contractors Board.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. One other follow-up question I had was, I know I was seeing the Excel with cost of goods and a few other details filled in too. Is there a way that I can get a copy of that as a template? I know I need to do, I have a rough idea of what it is, but I think there were many itemized lists that I haven't even considered or so. Probably that would help me as a beginning point.
As far as like what was presented in Ian's presentation, or?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I should have her email anytime soon, and we can distribute Ian's presentation. I actually don't see it in my email yet. So there will be a follow-up with the file that I had, and Ian's file, and she said that she used the test on Zero. She used the test sample company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for web hosting also, you mentioned a few sites. Are there any sites which are truly free? Like if I'm just exploring to see how I want my website built or so, do you recommend anything which are minimal price or which I can experiment with?
It's a hard one because there are truly free sites, but they put ads in.
Okay.
So you have a website, it's free, but there's ads and it looks less professional, let's say. But if you're just starting out, so what if there's a, powered by Wix? Who cares?
Okay.
You're in business. It's that whole minimum viable product thing. Like,
Okay.
yeah, you can only have so much money to spend.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, let's do one more. Anybody? Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Lachey. You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. Every class I promise I'm gonna stay quiet, but I guess I just can't. Okay. I have a question about upcoming classes. Will there be one covering grants? I.e. specifically, like I understand there's a veterans grant, a minority grant, a women's grant, and things of that nature, or is that hearsay?
We're not covering grants. And one of the reasons why is that SBDC doesn't really, can't really do too much in the nonprofit sector. That's one reason, and we just don't have time to fit that in. I am sure there's resources for you though.
Okay, great.
Is there, I'm sorry, could you remind me of your business again?
Yeah, beauty supply.
It has, that's right, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
So it's not a nonprofit, correct?
No.
Yeah. So there might be loans or government programs that give preference to, let's say, women-owned businesses.
Okay.
But here's money for free.
Well, I heard veterans.
Sure.
I heard there are for veterans, but maybe I need to contact the VA to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a better resource than that. Contact the Veterans Business Outreach Center. It's in Sacramento. It's VBOC. They do small business. It's basically like a larger small business development center, but they specialize for veterans. So there's a bunch of different things that are available and that are open. Also contact California Capital. It's the Women's Business Center, and see what they have as well. I don't know necessarily if they'll have grants, but I do know that they have quite a few loan options and micro loans that may be available.
Now, are there Indiana versions to the two referral?
Oh, that's right. You're in Indiana.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me do some research.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Can you email me your a zip code and a city in Indiana, and I will do some research for you and see what is out there.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
All right. Good night, guys. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, Wendy's been hanging out, Julie's been hanging out, just kind of absorbing. Or want to say a quick hi?
Hi, Robert.
Hi.
So Robert, I asked Nicole, and Nicole mentioned that the throughout the webinar we will have this session about the LLC. We're planning to purchase an LLC entity, And we wanted to know what are responsibilities and what are liability issues that we might face.
Yeah, again, I think that's Panda Morgan, who's presenting on February 9th. And that if you want, like, that's a really specific, complex question that would need to, a lot of probing questions to answer that properly.
Right.
So you could maybe get a head start by reaching out to SBDC and requesting Panda Morgan.
Yeah.
Panda Morgan, thank you.
Julie?
Yes, and the other concern is because we wanted to maintain the same business name, and probably will operating similar or offer similar services, if not beyond.
Julia, the first half of whatever you just said was cut off. So could you just do the setup of that question again, please?
I apologize, Robert. So the main purpose of taking over the LLC is to keep the same LLC name and offer the similar services, if not beyond. So that's why we were wondering about the liability issues.
I see. Yeah, I wish I was more skilled and able to answer that. I think insurance is a really good idea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
But-
Julie, real quick, sorry to interrupt you, Robert. Julie, have
Yeah.
you reached out to SBDC to schedule an appointment with an advisor?
No, not yet, Nicole. Maybe that's a good idea to have a one-on-one, correct?
Yeah, and ask to speak with Panda Morgan. Let the person know who you speak with at SBDC that you're taking the business creator course. And both Robert, Trent, and Nicole suggested you talk with Panda.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. Thanks, Robert.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. It was a great class.
Bye-bye.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.